Yo guys, if you're looking down and your heart's feeling empty, come have a laugh with us. I'm ShadowSoul720 and I'm going to be showing you my Ultimate Cup 2023 March Oceania Mono deck that I use, my deck profile. So this deck heavily focuses on Veemon because it's my favourite Digimon. I love doing that. And we're also going to be using UlforceVeedramon, mainly UlforceVeedramon 0. So it's a little bit of a strange deck. I thought there's going to be a lot of Ulforce running around because of what set we're up to, which is, I believe, BT11. And this deck, it got me about middle of the pack-ish, you know, somewhere around there. I didn't mind it. It's a deck that's very fun. You can easily switch out cards because you don't have to play mono. And it has so many different technical interactions that you really have to be big brain for it. You have to really think ahead. But when you do, and if you do, it can pay off. And it can make you feel like you've got a nice niche scenario for any matchup, I suppose. And that's really fun and really awesome. So, let's get into it. So, as far as Digi-Egg go, we have 1 Demi Veemon, and we have 4 Wanyamon. So the reason for this is we have some things in the deck with jamming, and I considered using Upamon, but Demi Veemon just felt a little bit better for me at the time. Wanyamon is, if you have a blue tamer, you can draw a card. Being an Ulforce-ish deck, we're going to have a few tamers in here, so I think we've got 9. So being able to just swing and draw is really nice, so Wanyamon's powerful. I really like it. It's going to go in a lot of decks. Now we have 4 of these Veemon, the one with the inherited skill of when attacking, if you have 7 less cards in your hand, you draw 1 card. It can also Digivolve to level 6 UlforceVeedramon if your opponent has a level 6 down. So, very cool, very fun. I like it a lot. And there was lots of situations where that would come up. We then have 2 jamming Veemons. You could run more, you could run less. The deck maybe doesn't even really need it. But they are fun, they do pair the Demi Veemon. And then we have 2 Veemons. These ones let you grab a blue tamer and a Veedramon card. So, pretty good in the Ulforce deck. Inheritable, when you play a tamer, you draw a gain of memory. I forgot to do this a lot. But it's pretty nice, to be honest. It's just a bit more draw support. And then Splash Splash, we're running 4 Crabmon. So you can see this deck's already a bit different. Crabmon is when you play it, you can give one of your other Digimon, one of your other blue Digimon, I believe, yep, jamming, which is really cool. And a bit more of that later. So next, let's run through Koalamon. So this is the level 4 that we're using. There's 3 of them in the deck. Just because they're blockers, they cost 1 to Digivolve, which is really good. So we just want to try and see our higher levels faster. We have Tobiamon, which again, 1 to Digivolve, but you can also play it for 3. Which is very cheap. It's the cheapest card, I believe, in blue. We then have Lydramon. So we have 4 of these. It's because in a monotype tournament, well, we don't have access to things like Stingmon. I don't know why the camera is showing that as black. But it can Digivolve for 2 off Veemon. We have a lot of those. We only have the 4 crabs outside of that, so there's a lot of targets for it. Because it's got Armor Purge, lovely. But it also ties into a tech card that we have later as well. We then have Kumon. Oh, it also opens the gateway for you to be able to use Megadeth if you want to in these decks, even though they're mono. We have Kumon. This is just a tech, one of, just so I can get rid of the source and we can Digivolve, get a KO, get a knockout maybe. Feel free to switch that for like Lobamon if you want, whatever. Now, we have 3 Mega Seedramon in this deck. So this card's great. It took a few people by surprise, so when you swing with it, you can bounce out a level 3 blue Digimon from one of your sources. Any source, doesn't have to be this one specifically. So if we bounced out the Veemon, that we could warp Digivolve, sometimes we could bounce it out and then Digivolve up to level 6 immediately. And you know what, I'll go a few. We can play, or, right, because we do have, I will say, we are running 2 of this UlforceVeedramon. So when it digivolves straight up from Veemon, you can play a Tamer, and I feel like that's a niche little interaction. Really, it's just there so I can play a Digimon, so I can bounce it up, so I can digivolve up to level 6 and play a Tamer at the same time. The other thing is we can have that Veemon that on play lets you draw a card, so when you bounce it out you can play a card. You can draw a card or 2 potentially. Or you set up a Veemon with jamming and then you scare your opponent for the next turn. Crabmon, amazing, because when it gets bounced out I could give this jamming, so I swing with it, I bounce it out, I give this jamming, that's great. But also Crabmon says when it gets played from sources, I can play a level 5 or lower Digimon, I think it's a blue one, under the card that it came from. So I could stack another Veemon or something there, so on the next time that I swing with this card, I should be able to hopefully draw more, if that makes sense. I think you could even... no. Anyway, nice little interaction there with Mega Seedramon. It's just to get more bodies on the board. And I could also get a level 3, Digivolve up to Coelamon for 1, and then I have a blocker, which is also pretty neat. Now we have Veedramon. We're running 3 of these. Amazing, very cool, very staple. So when Digivolving, it unsuspends one of your blue Digimon if you have a blue Tamer in play. Why is this great? You know, many reasons. We'll put that aside for now as well. Veemon. We're running 1 of these as a tech card. This is why we have the larger ones, just so if we want we can still DNA Digivolve even in a mono blue deck. And also it's not too bad because when you DNA Digivolve you can suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and then that Digimon doesn't unsuspend during your opponent's next turn either. Is it just that? Yep. Doesn't unsuspend during your opponent's next suspend phase. So it can slow down your opponent. You can just Digivolve up to get another swing in. Yeah, there's a little bit to it. There's just a little bit. And it boosts your attack power by 1k, which isn't too big, but it's something. Okay, UlforceVeedramon. Here it is. The card that lots of people are playing at the moment. The winner of the tournament, by the way, for Oceania was a Blackwall Greymon deck, but it was a little bit different because I had Deltamon, 2-color Digimon in that one, which is fun. And some other cards, but I can't quite remember. So this one, on play, when Digivolving you can play a blue Tamer, like I said before. It has a really awesome amount of interactions with Rena, which is another card we're going to talk about in a little bit. But if you guys don't know about this Digimon, it's just super strong. We'll go over some combos at the end as well, I guess. Now, UlforceVeedramon 0, we're running 3 of these in this deck because I tried it with 2 and I felt like that was a little bit inconsistent. So this one says that, you know, I'll just go over it at the end. Anyway, it's here. It's the main guy of the deck. Now, we can't Digivolve, we can't Warp Digivolve on the Veemon straight to this Ulforce because it's UlforceVeedramon 0. It has to be exactly the name UlforceVeedramon. So this guy isn't an applicable target for the other Veemon, just so you know. You can only do that with this one. Then we run 1 copy of Hexablamon. Now, you don't really have to run this in your deck. Like, I don't know if it actually helped me all that much, to be honest. There was a Commandramon deck that ended up having a battle with me, and it was pretty cool to see there. It's pretty cool to see there. But outside of some, you know, pretty niche situations, maybe it's not that important. But just being able to Digivolve on like Veedramon, Veemon, Mega Seedramon, it's not really that bad anyway. It just slows down the opponent. Okay, 4 arenas. Look at these, absolutely beautiful cards. Shout out to the my Tasmanian group friends for gaining me access to some of these cards, like these, the Ladramon, Veedramon. It's really good, and offering more as well. So these guys, absolutely amazing, absolutely huge, massive combos with Ulforce and Veedramon actually. Davis, I mean, I tested with 3 arena. Sometimes I wouldn't see it, so 4 seemed just important. Davis, you guys know about this card probably. You know, he sets you to 3. We're running 2 of them. Also another reason why Lardramon's in the deck and pretty good, because you can also draw it out from this card. And Dino Veemon comes in clutch there too. Now we've got the Davis and Ken. Oh, I know why the camera is doing this. It's because I've got a green screen back here that I'm not using. Anyway, sorry about that. We have one of these in here. That's just for the Veedramon so they can unsuspend, keep doing their thing. Yeah, and the Dino Veemon, I suppose, a little bit. Now, I didn't really need to run this in the deck, but I also was running Megadeth to start with, so I thought this is another way that I can use that without needing these specific cards down in a mono-color deck. You probably don't need to really run this at all, but I did. And there were some situations for it. And with UlforceVeedramon here, sometimes you're able to play extra tamers anyway, so it's not too bad to have more in the deck. Sojo! We ran at least 2 of these. I thought it was 3, but here is 2. So I think I was trying 3, and then I thought 2 is probably fine because we needed to add another arena. That's where it came in. So these things, great. If your opponent has no Digimon with sources underneath, just at least 1, you gain 2 memory. This would come up a lot. Opponents had to be like, do I want to play a card down to draw more? Because, like for example, one of those Veemons, right? Because then it's giving your opponent 2 more memory, and maybe that's not smart. And the ability to get rid of sources in a monotype tournament where there's no X antibody to stop that from happening, also pretty massive. So these guys were very clutch. And the ability to be able to play them with UlforceVeedramon, also awesome. Hammer Spark, we have 4. Yep. My 2 tech cards of the deck. So we have I'll Drag You Into the Depths. It costs 1. Security is added to the hand. I love this card. It's great. If one of your Digimon attacks an opponent's Digimon without sources, their Digimon gets deleted by this effect. Yep. So it doesn't even matter if you attack with a 2k Veemon or something into their Digimon without sources, it just dies. Veemon doesn't even have to battle. So that's my way to get rid of some big cards. And then we had the Ray of Victory, which is a 5-cost card. And it'll bounce a level 5 or lower Digimon to the hand. And if you have a blue tamer in play, it'll unsuspend one of your Digimon. Yep, doesn't even have to be a certain color. So that also gets played off security, and that effect will activate, which is really nice. Now, that was Megadeth, and Megadeth was pretty fine in this deck. But honestly, I thought there's maybe not that many targets for Megadeth to be able to be used all the time. The Ray of Victory, I think, does pretty similar things, and I wasn't worried about huge stacks because I could just Source Strip or play Hexablamon, or maybe even play I'll Drag You Into the Depths. So there's not a huge amount of removal in this deck, but I guess we also have UlforceVeedramon, and I wasn't really thinking about that. So in the end, if I was playing more Ulforce, maybe I didn't need the Ray of Victory. But the ability to be able to unsuspend a Digimon 2 can come in very clutch. Especially if it's your opponent attacking security and you have an unsuspended Digimon and you can just swing it back. It won't happen that often, but sometimes. Alright, now let's talk about some interactions. Hammer Spark being in the deck. That's a big thing. So, this Veemon, the one that is not once per turn, you can swing at when you attack. If you have 7 or less cards in your hand, you can draw 1. I find that sometimes if I'm drawing too many cards, I can just play a Hammer Spark. I go down from 8 to 7 or whatever, then I can still get this attack. I can swing again, get this again. So the idea is that I can burn through Hammer Sparks, gain memory, have less than 7, or well, less than 8 I should say, and then be able to keep using the effect, which is massive. Like I said before, these 2, you can warp into them if you need to. The other reason for Hammer Sparks is because we have 5 level 4 Digimon, the fish, in the deck that all cost 1 to Digivolve. So at the start of the game, for example, you can Digivolve into a rookie, you can go Hammer Spark for 1, then you can Digivolve into a fish, and then you can play maybe like a tamer. Or just go straight up into like level 3 and prepare for, you know, bigger things. I like to go into Mega Seedramon at that point. And even if I'm bouncing out of Veemon and the whole stack of Mega Seedramon goes to the trash, that's absolutely fine, because that's what UlforceVeedramon 0 is here for. So let me explain UlforceVeedramon 0. The deck idea is that, well, I'll tell you its effect. So when digivolving, I can place 3 non-digi eggs from my trash into my deck. When I do this, I can unsuspend this Digimon and one of my tamers. And its other effect is once per turn. When you do that, essentially, you gain a memory when something moves from the trash to the deck. So, the big combo that we have is Reina's effect. Says that when one of your Veedramon suspend, you can suspend this tamer to get the when digivolving effect. The really cool thing between these two cards, right? These two, yeah, ignoring the green screen thing effect, is they combo with each other all the time, constantly. So you swing with UlforceVeedramon 0, you trigger Reina, which gets UlforceVeedramon 0's digivolving effect to happen. You get 3 cards from your trash, shuffle them back, put them onto the bottom of your deck, then you unsuspend this Digimon and one of your tamers. So, as long as you've got 1 Reina and 1 UlforceVeedramon 0, you can keep swinging and doing this combination as many times as you want. It's unlimited, as long as you have 3 cards in the trash, right? As long as you've got cards in the trash, you can keep doing it over and over. As long as they're not digi eggs, but you know, that's a technicality. And also the first time you use this attack, trigger, unsuspend, Reina also says, hey, if you unsuspend a Digimon during your turn, you gain a memory. So granted you haven't done that effect at the start of your turn already, when your Digimon naturally unsuspend during the unsuspend phase, because it can trigger there as well, you'll be gaining memory. You could also, if you wanted to, right, you could swing with one of your level 5s in the deck, Mega Seedramon for example if it lives, or Veedramon if you want to maybe if you want to play Arena on the same turn as Veedramon so it gets blocker and evade, that's also pretty handy. You don't even have to do that if you don't want to. But anyway, if you got a level 5 that's suspended, you digivolve into UlforceVeedramon 0, use its when digivolving effect naturally to unsuspend one of your tamers. Maybe you've just used Sojo, right, to get rid of 2 sources from the bottom of your opponent's Digimon. You can unsuspend that so you can attack again and get rid of another 2 sources, which is absolutely beautiful. I've done that 2 or 3 times in the tournament. But it also will unsuspend the Digimon itself, and you can gain a memory. So instead of costing 4, essentially, when you play it, it can just cost 3. Granted, you have something unsuspended initially. What else can I tell you? On play, if you play Arena, right, you can give one of your Digimon with Veemon or Veedramon in its name blocker and evade. So, if you give these guys that, they can block an attack, which is really cool. If you have multiple Arenas down, you can block an attack, then when your Digimon becomes suspended, you can suspend Arena to unsuspend it, and then if it would be deleted by, say something with like 15k is trying to attack you, you can block it, unsuspend it with Arena, and then when this would be deleted by the battle, you can suspend it for evade, because that's how evade works. If you were to attack your opponent's security and die, you can just suspend it. So this thing, granted you have enough Arenas down, it's like the best blocker you can have. Of course, to do that with UlforceVeedramon's effect to keep unsuspending it, you would have to have more cards in the trash as well. So it's the best blocker, it's the best offense, because you can just unlimitedly do it if you have cards in the trash, which is why Hammer Spark's good, right? Because we want to burn that hand out, draw more cards with Veemon, and then, look, if you've got 3 Hammer Sparks in the trash, you've already got enough for one use of this. And that's also why I will go to Mega Seedramon on my first, able to attack turn sort of thing. I'd move it out, swing with it, bounce something so I've still got a body on the board, a little bit of offensive pressure on the, an early turn. And then if it dies in security, or if my opponent knocks it out because it's suspended, that's fine. That's stuff in the trash. And then the very next time I'm going to load up my hatching, breeding area, nursery stuff, I will try and just build that all the way up to UlforceVeedramon 0. So, you know, it's pretty like mid-late game, and I should have lots of stuff in the trash. And then I can just keep swinging for game. Is the hope. Yeah. I mean, it's always possible you'll hit Gaia Force or something, and it'll... Well, not Gaia Force, but something like Megadeth maybe, that'll just bounce it back to hand. And then Evade can't do anything about that. But it's very formidable. And if you've got Veedramon underneath as a level 5, when it unsuspends, it gets jamming. So you don't even really need Evade that badly because of that. Now, the awesome thing about this Veedramon and this Rena, right? Because you won't normally see these two in the same deck. These two I think are fantastic. So you play Veedramon, you Digivolve on top of something else that you've already got on the field. You play your Arena, you give it blocker and evade. Okay, cool. You've got a 7k blocker. Big deal, right? If your opponent swings into you, you block. Because your Veedramon suspends, and this is any turn, right? You suspend your Arena to get the when Digivolving effect. Its when Digivolving effect is if you have a blue Tamer, you unsuspend this Digimon. So suddenly, you can use your blocker again. Or if the Digimon's attack was, if it's like a, 10, 13k or something, you can then suspend it again for evade after you've blocked the attack to prevent its deletion. So the cool thing with these two is if you have lots of arenas, Veedramon can be the best blocker, right? It's almost, I'd say it's better than Mechanorimon, to be honest. But it takes a lot more setup, and you need Renas to be able to keep unsuspending and doing its effect. But it's just so niche, and I love this combination. And something else I did during the tournament too was sometimes I'd even give one of my Veemons blocker and evade, just because if it's on the field and sitting there, I'm like, oh no, my opponent's just going to blow it up with some sort of effect or something, so let me give it blocker and evade anyway. Or if it seems like dead weight and I'm already building something else on the stack in the breeding area, why not just give it blocker so I can block an attack because they might have a level 3 that's pretty low, or I just don't want my sources getting hit. And with Mega Seadramon bouncing it out anyway, it wasn't going to attack that turn. My opponent's likely going to blow it up in some way, so why not make them use resources? And then that's more stuff for the trash. And I have this card out there anyway. And if they don't blow it up, they don't destroy it, they don't attack or anything, that's pretty cool. And if there's some way, maybe I'll be able to trigger its unsuspend effect. It doesn't matter. Anyway, lots of interactions. What else? Veemon? No. UlforceVeedramon. So you guys should already know about this card probably. The idea around this combo is that you can keep unsuspending it and attacking with it as long as you have Tamers in your hand. So you go to swing with it. Well, when you Digivolve, you can play a Tamer. Great. You play Rena, you give it blocker and evade. You swing with it, you suspend your Rena, you get its when Digivolving effect. You can play a Tamer from your hand. Granted, you do have those. Again, drawing lots of cards is important. Maybe I even need more draw support in this deck, so that's something you can definitely look towards. Maybe you don't need Veedramon in the whole green line, which is fair enough. Or this. Memory boost could even be better. And then, because you played a Tamer, naturally it just gets to unsuspend. When it unsuspends, you can bounce something back that's level 3, and you can add a level for every Tamer you have in play. So say you play 2 Renas, because of doing this, from when you first Digivolved it, and then when you unsuspended it and you can play a Tamer from your hand, that's already a level 5. Because you've got 3 plus 2 Tamers, 5. And that's pretty power, That is pretty power. So, it doesn't have jamming though. On top of this Veedramon, it does have jamming. Now it is 12k, it is kind of powerful. And it's something that you can definitely use Sojo with, because you can swing with it. You can suspend your Sojo. Sorry, you could swing with like the Veedramon, you could use Sojo. Or the Mega Seadramon. Then you could Digivolve up into it. And yeah, it's just real good. Play another one. Sorry, I don't know where I was really going with that part, but that's my deck that I used in the tournament. It was really fun, it was really cool. There's a whole bunch of moving parts. Crabmon, apart from Veedramon, Crabmon also, you can just play it down to give this guy jamming or this guy jamming if you're worried about like all the little checks you're going to do. If it has evade, then look, it's not going to be deleted by Battle Digimon because of like a various source of jamming. It's not going to be deleted by effects because it has evade, assumedly. And you can just keep swinging as long as you've got trash. So just build it up. It's a long game, right? And you can. That's why Hexablow's in this deck as well, just because you want to slow it down a little bit. It can be outpaced. It can be. But that's also why we're source stripping, slowing them down. Howling Memory Boost could be really good in this as well, just to stop your opponent from getting a few attacks in. That's why I don't have Veemon's here. But I think you could definitely work on this deck, make it a bit better. I don't know when there's going to be more monocolored tournaments, but this is the stuff. This is the deck. That's how it kind of works. And I'm pretty proud of it. I like it. I love it a lot. Something else you might not know. Yeah, when you play Arena, if you got a Veemon down or something, you can give it blocker and evade. But if you Digivolve it up to, say, Lydramon for 2, or Raydramon as I like to say, then the blocker and evade effect will still linger, right? It's still on this Digimon, right? This one. So Lydramon then has blocker and evade, which means if your opponent tries to delete it, I mean, you could evade or you could armor purge, but also you get a blocker with armor purge. So you block an attack, boom, and then you just armor purge down, and that's something that you can do. You can think about that. Or if you've got enough memory on your turn, you get a Lydramon, you swing with it. Maybe it dies. That's fine, because then you can just Digivolve up to maybe another Lydramon. Maybe you got your Davis and Ken. Maybe you can unsuspend it. Maybe you're just going to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, but then you go up to Veedramon and the whole stack unsuspends, and you've got that whole Veedramon blocker combo thing with Rena going now. Anyway, that's the deck. Really love it. Again. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts. If you can afford Renas, good stuff. If you can't, right there with you. Support each other and take care. I'll catch you all somewhere. Peace.